Good evening and welcome to Overtime. Multiple airbases across the United States have declared Force Protection Level Charlie. That is a designation that means a commander has intelligence indicating an attack is possible. The only higher alert level is Delta, which is reserved for when an attack has occurred or is directly anticipated. The reason for the heightened level is because of multiple drones. In one instance, multiple drones spotted over Fort McNair, which, let's see, well, I'll get to that one in a second. The drones that have been detected, the Pentagon is not answering questions about them. The State Department has been asked to answer what they know about the drones. They are not answering, save at this point the Washington Post knows that the drones are not American military and almost certainly not civilian. The reason we believe they're not civilian is because nobody can find the operators. The operators of these drones are operating from rather far away. A joint base, McGuire-Dixie Lakehurst in New Jersey and MacDill Air Force Base in Florida have raised their threat protection levels. The U.S. Central Command is at MacDill Air Force Base. We know that a number of drones have been spotted over the Washington Army Air Force Base, Fort McNair. Fort McNair is located on the peninsula at the base of the Potomac, and normally it does not house political officials, but a number of, and we had mentioned earlier, Pam Bondi moved into, and there's been a big thing on X about this. Pam Bondi is now living essentially in a mansion that's a military building usually reserved for generals, and it actually has butlers and the whole nine yards. The complaint has been that she's been using the situation to her advantage, but at this point, Fort McNair, it was published publicly that both Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth had moved there for the duration of the war with Iran. Their specific location has been made public, and at this point, that base is encountering multiple threats that they are monitoring, that they say they are not, again, they don't appear to be civilian, and they are not American military. So the thing about drones, we in the U.S. have not had to deal with this. It's a reasonably new thing. It has developed and occurred almost exclusively through the war in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia. Trump had asked Ukraine for its help in fighting drones. Most of our bases don't have drone jamming technology. We hadn't really anticipated Iran being this serious about striking back. However, it turns out, according to the Washington Post as well, there is still essentially a fatwa against former National Security Advisor John Bolton and former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Both of these men have a fatwa against them because of the Soleimani strikes. This was when, I believe it was Trump last time assassinated Soleimani on Iraqi soil. Now, because of that, the Biden administration extended their Secret Service protection because they were endangered by actions taken by then President Trump against the assassination of Soleimani. Trump believed it was a foreign power, and he he did what he did. Biden decided that both Bolton and Pompeo needed extra security. I loathe Bolton. I absolutely loathe the man. But Trump, as you may recall, removed their security detail as well as the extended detail for the families of Obama and a number of other people in his cost-cutting measures. These are people who have served their country in one way or another. Bolton is a lunatic and an idiot, but nonetheless served his country and should not be punished for the actions taken by Donald Trump and countries that want to assassinate him because of that. So it is, according to the Washington Post, Iran still is interested in attempting to kill both former security advisor Bolton and Bolton was also our ambassador to the UN, if I recall, and Mike Pompeo. So that notwithstanding, there's a number of drones that have been found across bases now in New Jersey and Florida and Washington. These drones are not American military drones and are believed to not be civilian because there hasn't been a civilian somebody seems to be deliberately flying these over military bases. They know what they're doing, and the U.S. has not been able to find the operators. So it is considered a serious enough threat that these bases have been moved to threat level Charlie. Again, that is the second highest threat level. That is where they believe there is a significant possibility of attack. They don't know for certain. The Delta threat level would be if they know for certain or if an attack is taking place. So we don't know if they have reached Delta on the on Fort McNair. The Washington Post has reached out to the State Department and asked if Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth have been moved. Right now, officials, unofficially, it appears as if they have not, but the State Department has said that they will not comment on the current whereabouts of Hegseth or Rubio. We do know that the president is awake and there is a meeting at the White House right now as to how to discuss how to respond. But there have been drones now sighted in Washington over a Washington base, and earlier this week over Joint Base McGear and MacDill Air Force Base in Florida. So that is at least 3 Air Force bases that have spotted unidentified drones. The drones have not hit anything. This is where we get into, it would be nice if we had an expert on drones. The assumption appears to be that the drones may have been targeting Rubio and Hegseth, and were waiting to get some form of clean shot, and when they were discovered, we don't know what happened. We are unaware. There have been no reports of anyone shooting down a drone. We don't know what kind of defenses these bases have. The U.S. is typically reasonably well insulated from this from actually having to fight in our mainland because we're surrounded on 2 sides by water. That is a luxury we have that the EU does not, and unfortunately it is something that makes us reasonably ignorant to a number of problems that we create for other countries that we don't have to face because we have the Atlantic and the Pacific protecting us. That notwithstanding, for those of you just joining us, U.S. Officials have identified drones above the Washington Army base where Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth live. Officials do not know where these drones are from, but if they match the pattern of drones that have been spotted now over 2 other bases, they won't find the operators, and the drones they know are not U.S. military. That suggests then that they are not civilian either, because a civilian operator doesn't hide. Most civilians don't run and hide and then fly a drone over a U.S. military base. That's not a common thing. So we don't know for a fact that it's Iranian. We do know that Iran has been attempting to assassinate Trump for a while. Let's see. Okay, Chief Pentagon spokesman Sean Purnell declined to discuss the drones. The department cannot comment on the secretary's movements for security reasons, and reporting on such is grossly irresponsible. Well, yeah, that's true, but move them and don't tell anyone. Let's see. U.S. Central Command was locked down twice at MacDill Air Force Base. That is the one in Florida, I think. And it is the one that is responsible for running the military operations against Iran. There was a suspicious package that was discovered there on Monday that the FBI is looking at, but we don't know anything about that. They thought there was something radiological there, but nobody's followed up. It's been since Monday, so I'd think that have told us by now if there was something, if it was something serious, that no. And I don't know how you'd sneak something radiological into this country, but well, actually, that's not correct. I do know how it's done. I'm not going to talk about how it's done. But there are ways to do it, unfortunately. The U.S. is not as clever as we think we are. Let's see. The U.S. State Department ordered all U.S. Diplomatic posts worldwide to immediately undertake security evaluations, citing the ongoing developing situation in the Middle East, and for potential spillover effects, according to a cable reviewed by the Washington Post. Fort McNair houses the National Defense University and some of the Pentagon's most senior officials. Again, the base has not traditionally housed political leaders, but a growing number of Trump officials, including Kristi Noem, not Pam Bondi, has moved into the area. She's like in a mansion there, and everybody got into a huff over it. But it looks like it may have been a good idea. So let's see. The Secret Service says that September 24, officials told Trump that Iran wanted to kill him and had multiple kill teams in the country, but there is no evidence linking Iran to either of the assassination attempts in 24, but they also could not rule that out. Now, the reason they wanted to assassinate him before this attack was because of the killing of Soleimani. He was a very popular general in Iran. He was in Iraq. We knew where he was. We assassinated him very much illegally. It was what Trump does. So the Iranians still want Trump, John Bolton, and Mike Pompeo dead. Trump, being the compassionate and empathetic person that he is, removed their security details, John Bolton's and Mike Pompeo's security details, Secret Service details, in 2025. They had been extended by Biden on the grounds that there was, in fact, a kill order against them from Iran. Iran is now taking it, obviously, very much more seriously. So that's what we got for those of you just joining us. Now, we know what we've learned is that over the last 10 days, there have been a number of air bases in the U.S., military bases in the U.S., that have gone to threat level Charlie because something has penetrated their airspace. That it was a drone. The operator of the drone was not identified, and to the best of our knowledge, the drone was not intercepted. It looks as if something is probing, looking for, possibly looking for something to strike. It is believed that these are not civilian drones, and they are. The Washington Post is saying that the United States military has confirmed it is not their drones. So somebody is operating drones, in some cases a number of drones, hovering over sensitive U.S. military bases, including most recently tonight, in fact, over the base that houses Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. There is an emergency briefing right now at the White House as to how to respond. It looks like the assumption they're making is that these drones were intended to strike a target. The target did not present itself. Whether nobody says they have the drones in custody. But unfortunately, in modern warfare, this is now a significant problem we in the U.S. have to contend with, which is they can build the drones here. So all they have to do is get into this country. And they've been trying to get into this country in the past for various reasons, and they wanted to get in before the war and got in before the war, again, since the killing of Soleimani, and even before that. But Soleimani was a very, very big one. That was not a particularly wise move. At any rate, that we're aware of now, it's 3 bases that appear to have had their airspace penetrated by drones at some point and have raised their threat protection level to Charlie, which is the second highest. It means they have reason to believe there is an attack either in progress or possible. Again, the only higher level is Delta, meaning an attack has occurred or is known to be inbound. So that's what we've got. It's the first time that I can think of in a very long time that anyone has challenged American air bases on U.S. soil. 9/11 actually, in as much as it challenged the Pentagon and did considerable damage to the Pentagon, everything else was a civilian target. But the Iranians have not been stupid thus far, and we were discussing that earlier. Their counterattacks have not been wild. When we hit one of their desalination plants, they hit one in Bahrain. 1. They didn't hit 2. They didn't hit 3. They didn't just start, So they're being methodical and deliberate against a president that has the attention span of a ferret hopped up on 300 pounds of Starbucks morning blend. I feel safer already. I think this is something we're going to have to contend with. I'm curious. We've had breaking before, and we've had very serious breaking before in the middle of the night, and then I sit there sometimes as Andrew joins. Speaking of, actually, and you all can listen in. We can see if. Oh, it's 11:30. I don't want to wake his. He may be up. He's got military experience. I'm going to wake him. If anyone asks, Titan insisted. Please, everyone, do stand by a minute. We're live. Come on in right now, please. Thank you. Bye. All right, I reached him. He was awake. He is on his way. He will let us know as soon as he gets here, and we will do another rundown. We already knew that there was additional, and I want to make sure this gets into the Discord right now. We'll put it in the breaking news section. It's from the Washington Post, so, and it's right now it's exclusive. That usually means they've got about 24 hours that nobody else can publish it, but everybody else, they may. I mean, this is, like I said, we've had, when Xandring comes on, Xandring and I have been on before for Oh, yeah, that's okay. Thank you, Bregwin. Bregwin's already got it there, and it's the archive. So drones over the base of Rubio and Hegseth prompt Iran targeting. Yep. All right. Good. Good. All right. So what I need to do is see if he's in yet. He is not. So I will keep an eye on that. As soon as he comes in, I will do another. Oh, you are? Okay. Usually I get a little background so I can see on the audio. So this is what we've got. The Washington Post is reporting that apparently for the last couple of days, actually, there have been mysterious drones going over various bases in the United States. They're actually pretty key bases. We'll get into what's been going on there, but the bases have all been moved to Force Protection Level Charlie, which my understanding is it's the designation that says the commander has intelligence indicating an attack is possible. The only higher level is Delta, which is when an attack has occurred or is anticipated. For the last few days, it's been over a few different bases. Joint Base McLear, Dixie, Langhurst in New Jersey, MacDill Air Force Base in Florida, and tonight it was the Washington Army Base, Fort McNair, which is on a peninsula at the edge of the Potomac. Now, Fort McNair is important because you may recall, like Kristi Noem moved into a mansion and everybody got all upset about it because she said, well, she's scared to be home with the war and everything, and she's in a mansion for a general, and apparently she's got butlers and so on and so forth. But a number of the administration's officials have been moving on to bases where they have more security, and I think you and I even talked about that at one point. This base houses Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and they actually announced about 2 months ago that they were moving there for security reasons. So Iran would know that they're there. The Washington Post has commented, are they going to be moved? Are they still currently there? Which the Washington Post is reporting that they are. Chief Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell has declined to discuss the drones, but said the department cannot comment on the secretary's movement for security reasons, and reporting on such movement is grossly irresponsible. The Pentagon has confirmed that the drones are not U.S. military and has put numerous bases on lockdown. They have suggested that every, let me see, all diplomatic posts worldwide immediately take security evaluations, citing, quote, the ongoing and developing situation in the Middle East and the potential for spillover effect. Now, in none of these instances have they been able to find who's running the drones, which seems to suggest that it's military, because if it's a civilian flying a drone, it's some idiot who got drunk and says, oh, let's fly a drone over the Air Force Base, and they find the guy and, arrest his ass and whatever. This looks much more coordinated. The issue tonight, they have woken the president, and the White House is in a meeting right now to discuss how to increase security measures and respond to the drones that were over the Washington Army base earlier tonight, and it was literally just a couple of hours ago. This also is a reminder that Iran has actually been trying to kill Trump for quite some time. There's no evidence linking or ruling out a connection between the two previous assassination attempts and Iran, but if you recall, he killed Soleimani in his first term. Because of that, a fatwa was issued both against him, John Bolton, and Mike Pompeo. Biden increased the security detail on Pompeo and Bolton and allowed them to keep their detail even after Trump was out of office. But Trump removed their detail because he was pissed at them for testifying against him. So that's where we stand. At any rate, we are seeing what looks from here like Iranian drones over U.S. military bases. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Well, I was doing a bit better until you called me and was like, "Hey, we're kind of going live with some drones," and I'm like, "Oh, well, that should give us a great eagle eye view of what's going on." And you're like, "No, no, as in there's drones that we don't know whose they are flying over military installations." And I'm like, "Oh, well, I'll bet that makes them a little froggy,
Little
a little
froggy.
jumpy."
Yep. Well, and it was funny because I was sitting here talking about two things. We covered this, and this is from the Washington Post, so we went with it. The and it's exclusive to the Post. You and I have covered stories. I mean, I remember the. I know you remember. We covered live 1 million people in Tel Aviv. 1 million. Burning down Netanyahu's house, breaking through the gate, just destroying everything. They asked the military to overthrow Netanyahu and his government. Netanyahu ordered the military to shoot the protesters, and it was just a stand. I mean, remember, we're covering this. There's footage rolling. Everything's on fire. And we wake up the next day. It's not in the Times. It's not in the Post. It is nowhere. And I call you up and like, did we, what the,
We went to bed and woke up in an alternate universe where it didn't happen.
I know. And it took 3 or 4 days before I saw the New York Times reference it and say, this is likely related to the mass protests in Israel 3 days ago. And it was funny because somebody was just like, well, you know, the Jews own all the papers. And I'm sitting there going like, given I'm not in a position to refute, it was weird. So I was in the middle of saying, this strikes me, the Post putting this out there, and this has been going on for a couple of days now, but what triggered the Post going with this story was tonight a penetration of the airspace in multiple drones where Rubio and Hegseth are on the base that's housing them. And it's serious enough that the White House is in an emergency meeting as we speak, and I'm sitting there going like, I think this is a game changer because in America we are very used to our actions not really affecting us. We can bomb or assassinate anyone anywhere we want, and it doesn't really affect us because you have to cross an ocean to get to us. If you're France, Germany, anything like that, and it affects everything. And we've actually had this discussion why the BBC exists as opposed to public air in the United States. It's actually part of the same problem. If people are just broadcasting radio waves randomly everywhere in the EU, everyone can pick it up. So they have to regulate there more in ways that we don't have to. The geography means a tremendous amount. If you're in Germany and you piss off somebody else on that continent, you will feel the reverberations. The U.S. hasn't really had to deal with that with 9/11 and one or two other exceptions withstanding. This feels like a game changer. I mean, drones you can make in country. So, and Iran, according to the Secret Service, I think I left this one out. Sorry, I felt a little good, nice, warm feelings from you that you were starting to feel a bit better and more reassured. So let me end that for you. Trump's Secret Service detail has said that in September that Iran's been trying to kill him and actually has multiple kill teams in the country. So, thoughts in general, is this a game changer? I already know the answer, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Why didn't they just shoot these things down and or just drone jamming in? I mean, that's what they do in Ukraine.
Probably a couple of reasons.
Okay.
One, they've got to find where they're coming from. They want to find where they're coming from. Two, the government isn't particularly competent at doing things. And three, I don't think Trump could be bothered.
Well, and blocking drone signals has been around in the Ukraine for a few years, about 3 years. the U.S. hasn't had to contend with drones, so I don't think we've spent much time fortifying our defenses against drones. They're fortified against, missiles, airplanes, stuff like that, but not so much drones. So when drones start hovering over an airbase, we don't have a lot of experience with that. I wonder if there are any countries that do that might be able to help us out if we were nice to them.
Probably not.
Nah.
I mean, the other thing, it's like people talk about, military bases, and they're like, oh, they're all hardened and fortified, and I mean, for the most part, they kind of are. But there's also like shocking laxity in some security areas, because the most likely thing to happen in a military base is somebody may be trying to shoot it up, a single person inside. I mean, that's really, you have some weekend people. You have had people that have tried to fly their, commercial drones over the military base to get pictures of like equipment and stuff like that. And generally, they can hunt them down fairly quickly, but they find the people because they have to be somewhat close to the military base to do this. Anything that radiates a signal can be tracked. We have all the technology to do that, but the bases don't really have all of that stuff in place, or a manual of procedures in order to track the stuff down to prevent it. They don't have the equipment really handy to jam stuff. I mean, that's not stuff that you really have set up ready to go, because we don't deal with that on our soil. So it's, the worst is usually, some nosy neighbor trying to get pictures of something.
Yeah.
That's generally what they're dealing with. Once you start getting into more military grade style drones, which can be hardened to prevent, jamming, things like that, they're just not really set up to do stuff like that, because they haven't really needed to. So we'll see how quickly they change, and of course, changing doctrine and doing all this stuff, it's kind of hard to do that without that information getting out. And then, of course, people start worrying. Oh no, they're people are going to start launching attacks on our military bases right here at home, and they're going to think back to that. Was it a Pentagon report or the CIA report, whatever it was, talking about 3,000 Iranian sleeper cells in the known to exist in the United States, and of course that report is kind of old now. It's old intel. So. And why in the heck they released that, I have no idea, but it got released. So, I mean, it's to think that there isn't people, wow, my grammar is great tonight, that there aren't people
Same.
in the in the U.S. that don't have the greatest of intentions towards the U.S. who would be willing to, do nefarious things, I think would be a little naive. But I also am not particularly convinced that there's, scores and scores of these sleeper cells that are going to activate and just start blowing everything up.
Oh dear. Trump threatens to blow up Iran's largest gas field if attacks continue. That doesn't sound de-escalatory to me. When did he say this? Is this something that he just said? Because if he's saying this, is he in his slippers on the White House lawn, like shouting at
Angry man shakes sky at fist.
Updated 11:44 p.m. Yeah, that's updated. That's not when President Donald Trump has threatened to blow up the world's largest gas field. It was already hit by the Israelis. We talked about that. The day after his resignation, former Trump administration official. Oh, God. All right. I'm going to see if I can get something on this, because if he just said that, which I mean, I listen. I don't want them poking around our air bases either. But on the flip side, we attacked them for absolutely no reason. And I mean, that was the testimony of the head of the intelligence, U.S. intelligence agency, what's her name, Secretary. Oh, you see, I'm still chill. Like I was just like, I'm gonna go to bed. It's been, just did a great show. Let's see, Intel assessment. There was no.
You just need to stop going to bed.
Yeah, I need to stop sleeping. I think that's the. Okay, so okay, this is something else. It was an Intel assessment from 𝐍𝐢𝐜𝐡𝐨𝐥𝐚𝐬, who resigned yesterday over the Iran war. He resigned. Actually, no, it was 2 days ago now. He resigned because he felt there was no credible intelligence for attacking Iran, and that's been the assessment of the intelligence. Tulsi Gabbard basically said the same thing, and then when pushed on it, well, wait a minute, were they a threat or weren't they? She's like, we just gave him the facts. He decides whether they're a threat or not because he's the president. But she admitted that the facts were that they were not trying to enrich uranium. They had not tried to rebuild any of the facilities that were destroyed. They hadn't tried to compensate for it. They weren't doing anything. She gave that to the president. He reached the conclusion that they're a threat, and obviously he knows what he's talking about. That was her testimony. Delightful. All right. So, yeah, what I was thinking, I mean, when we wake up tomorrow is going to be all over. Now, this is an exclusive to the Washington Post. It's on our Discord. It's in the breaking news section, so you can read it. And Bregwin was good enough to put it on through the archive. So even if you don't have a subscription to the Post, you can read the article. But I've forgotten the Associated Press rules on this, but if I recall, when it's an exclusive, they put it out, and then everyone has to wait 24 hours. Actually, in general, if it's considered exclusive, whether they say exclusive or not. When they put it out, nobody else can reprint the article for 24 hours, then everyone else can run with it. But what people can do is say, the Washington Post is reporting that. So I'm curious to see what we're going to see in the news tomorrow. It seems to me that Iran wants to bring the war to the U.S. This gets into moral hazard, which is one of your favorite things to talk about, I know. And someone should do something about that. But anyways, that was a good joke. The fact that we are so disassociated from the effects of, we're like, oh, let's bomb a country, blow it to hell, kill a whole bunch of civilians. I think I'm going to have Fruit Loops for dinner tonight because I want to be outrageous and do something silly. And I mean, we literally can get away with that, and you can't if you're in Europe because your actions have consequences. But for the U.S., they largely don't. With luck, the Dow will be at 40K. Well, and oil was 109.90 last I checked. That's what it was. I mean, it's. I assume the Nikkei has it now, so who knows what it'll be. I don't know. Let me see if I can find the current Dow. That's going to be worthless. It's going to be meaningless. I don't know. Any thoughts?
The use of drones in modern warfare, I think, is really swapped up entire theories of thought on conventional engagements. The fact that you can send drones quite a long ways away. The U.S. was starting to use them, but will actually use them quite a lot. But they were kind of very expensive, high-flying, very technological things. And now the drone market has exploded. It's amazing what significantly less expensive drones can do. It starts making entire fields of them, covering a battle space, a lot more attainable for a lot more people. So yeah, it starts making things a lot more interesting in the Chinese proverb sense.
Yeah. Dunk on you, $20 super chat. Just got done with my night work. Good to see you all. Slava Ukraine, Slava, and we will be seeing you tomorrow. In time is going to be joining you guys over at the Greg Terry Experience at 4 p.m. Eastern, so that should be a lot of fun. And then we'll be doing downtime. I say tomorrow. It's still tomorrow. Tomorrow 9 p.m. and we'll see how it goes. But thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. Spasibo Bolshoya, and also for the 5 gifted memberships. Thank you. Also, Renegade Chungus, member for 6 months. This is Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Yeah, exactly. Hillary Clinton. Sorry, Hillary. Well, it's her emails. I keep trying to say, if only we had solved that email problem, we wouldn't all be sitting here worrying about drones about to strike civilian targets. But I've been very disciplined.
I will say that if that actually does happen, if they start actually attacking instead of just buzzing drones around military bases.
Yep.
Because there's, over the last couple of years, there has been an increased amount of drones flying around military bases, and they never say exactly who's doing it in a lot of the reports, but it's very common now to see drones trying to get into the airspace of military bases. So that's been going on for quite a while, and it's been increasing as well. But like I said, usually they're people with their civilian $400 drone that they decided to buy, and they're like, hey, let's go look at the military base. And usually those kinds of drones are geofenced, so it's hardwired into their programming certain coordinates they can't actually fly into or fly over. They have, a lot of them are limited to a certain elevation. They can't fly higher than that. So there's a lot of restrictions on a lot of commercial drones, but you start getting into people who know how to build them and the programming for them, they can delete that stuff or just not include it. So you start getting more custom drones or drones from other places other than the United States. You can start doing a lot more with them, and that gives the ability, because for so long the United States was more or less untouchable. 2 giant oceans, more or less friendly countries to the north and south. Southern ones had some problems, but nothing that we were particularly worried about as far as let's invade the U.S. It's very difficult to do that.
Yep.
The advancement in drones and drone procedures, tactics, have made it possible now for other actors to actually access the United States. Are they going to defeat the United States with their drones? No. The U.S. is way too big for that, but they can certainly cause mayhem, and they can reach out and actually touch the U.S., which is, like, as you pointed out, we go to war with someone, and very quickly, it's news for a while, like the Afghan war was news sporadically, and then it was like people would completely forget that, oh yeah, by the way, we're still attacking things and people in another country halfway around the world. It doesn't affect this Americans' daily life. When it does, like economically, usually is what happens. We feel the economic repercussions of that. And once the American people start feeling the pinch of that, and it's having negative effects, they usually get a little irritated at that, and that's usually when things start to end.
Well, I think your point last time about the asymmetrical warfare was an excellent one, which is Iran doesn't need to beat us; they need to make the economy hurt so much that Trump comes to the table, because he doesn't want to lose the midterms. He wants to keep the midterms so badly. He's giving out heart transplants to members of Congress. I wish that was a joke. He's just like, oh, is that a Republican? He's got a bad ticker? So send him to Walter Reed. So it literally happened. So he wants to win. He needs to win, and he said if he'll get impeached for sure if he loses the House. They'll successfully impeach him if he loses the Senate, with the possible exception of Roberts may or may not cooperate. But a whole nother. We're miles from that right now. At any rate, at a minimum, his whole agenda comes to a grinding halt if we get the House back, and he knows it. And we're there. They are up 3. Would have been 2, but heart transplant, so now they're still back up 3. Daddy Jim, our Daddy Jim fella, UA, member for 11 months. Oh my God, we're gonna have to do something for your year anniversary. Thank you so much for supporting us for so long. Great news show. Thank you, sir. Our genuine pleasure. Thank you, Xandering, for I just called and I was already live, so I didn't want to sit there and explain it to you. I was like, come on, I'll do another rundown and explain it to you. Drones everywhere. Oh.
That's the future.
Yep. So for what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one more rundown. For those of you just joining us, we're probably not going to learn anything new tonight. So I'll do one more rundown of what we have. It is on our Discord, so you can join us on the Discord and read it there. It's a Washington Post article. Apparently drones that are of unidentified sources, and they're being flown from far enough away that they can't find the people flying them. So that suggests a reasonably technologically advanced drone and somebody who doesn't want to be found. They're not U.S. drones. We know that they are not U.S. military drones. Have been flying over at least 3 bases. The bases have all gone to Force Protection Level Charlie, which is the second highest threat level. It's a designation that means a commander has intelligence indicating an attack or danger is possible. The only higher level is Delta, which is that the attack has occurred or is anticipated. So these drones, one base in Florida, it's actually the Central Command base. It is the base responsible for running the war in Iran, a base in New Jersey, and a base at the Potomac in Washington. Now, the one in the Potomac just had multiple drones flying over it tonight. That's what got the Washington Post to publish this now. They've apparently been on the story for a little while and known about the others, but I think when this happened tonight, they decided to push the story. In the Washington Army base, Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth have both moved into that base for protection so that they aren't taken out by drones or Iranians in their own, residence. But these drones appear to have flown over. We don't know anything past that. It doesn't appear like they've been able to capture any of these drones. We do know that the White House is holding, as of this writing, which was about a little less than an hour ago, the White House was holding an emergency meeting to figure out how to respond and how to increase security measures. Meanwhile, they have ordered all U.S. diplomatic posts worldwide to, quote, immediately undertake security evaluations, citing the ongoing and developing situation in the Middle East and the potential for spillover effects. We do know that there are Iranian cells here. We do know that there are fatwas on Trump, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and John Bolton from the successful assassination of Qasem Soleimani in 2020 when he was visiting Iran. So they've been sending people over in anticipation of some form of asymmetrical attack on U.S. soil. That being said, somebody pointed this out, and I think this is an extraordinarily important point that I have a tendency to forget, which is you also have to be very careful of false flags. We've been talking about Trump is going to want to have a false flag at some point soon. It would be in his best interest for a false flag. he is in very big trouble, and he is looking at jail time. He's not that different from Netanyahu at this point, who has created multiple false flags and committed genocide so he doesn't have to go to jail. That's shit you read about in history books. You don't expect to actually watch someone doing it. And he's best buddies with Trump. That's just great. That's just great. Oh, my God. So, I think we should keep an eye on it being a false flag. I'm very careful. Well, I shouldn't say very. I almost never think of it being a false flag. I do try to avoid thinking that something's a false flag because it's too easy to get sucked up into conspiracy theories, and everything could be a false flag. So, but I think it's worth not letting go of the fact that it might be. Ken, gifted one in-time membership. Thank you so much, Ken, for your good deed of the day. We appreciate it. So that is the rundown. That is where we stand. Three, I keep saying Air Force bases, U.S. military bases appear to have gone to threat level Charlie when their airspace was penetrated by multiple drones. We don't know how many today flew over the Washington Army base at the Potomac, which is where Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth are living for increased security. Officials have been unable to determine, according to multiple sources, where the drones came from, and it is a pattern of drones that have been seen over military bases. They've been unable to find the people in those three instances for those three bases, which implies that they're not civilian, and the Pentagon increasing the alert level for them implies that they're not American. So that's where we are. That's right. No Kings coming up. We do need to talk about that at some point, but I'm not gonna. For breaking, I should have talked about that at the show earlier today, which you missed. I got to talk about. I was gonna say Pony Girl. I don't know why I'm thinking Pony Girl instead of Puppy Girl, but hacker polycules. It was a riveting discussion at the beginning of the show. So for those of you who missed it, want to learn more about those,
sounds riveting. I mean, Pony Girl and polycules and what the hell are you getting into?
Well, but listen, my personal life is between me and the audience. It has nothing to do with you unless you're watching the show, which right now you're not. So you're participating.
I'm watching it too.
Well, yeah, that's technical. Yeah. My audience is probably going to just tell you all about the polycule thing. Yeah. Well,
it's going to get really interesting if bronies are back. It's going to get really interesting if these are malign actors that are operating drones, which we don't know for sure that they are.
Yes, correct.
I mean, you should just assume that they are because they're buzzing military airspace, and they shouldn't be doing that regardless. But yeah, if somehow Iran has been able to bribe or buy or somehow themselves get people over here with the kind of drone technology that they would need to be able to beat geofencing and overcome standard kind of jamming procedures to actually attack targets, then that's going to be a significant shock to the U.S. and it could go a couple of ways. Everybody could suddenly blame Trump for getting us into this, which would be justified, and call for the immediate withdrawal from Iran with big apologies and we'll help you rebuild things, stuff like that. Or it could maybe galvanize a bunch of people together to say, okay, now they're attacking us here at home, literally wipe them off the face of the earth. We'll see how it goes, but for the first time in a very long time, direct action on U.S. soil may be possible.
And I appreciate what we don't know. It certainly looks like these are hostile drones, military something by military. I mean, it's asymmetric. It's military, but it certainly does look that way. We don't know yet. Nobody's been able to confirm it. We do know the White House is meeting at this moment to figure out how to respond to it, and we know that the bases have changed their defense conditions, so it certainly wasn't. If it was the U.S. military, a number of people have made a very large number of very serious mistakes, and given the way this administration works, they're probably all about to be promoted. All right, I think that's we'll see if there's actually been. Things are gonna. That I appreciate the dichotomy, and I think you're right. Either people are going to sit there and say, "Oh, that's it. Iran crossed the line by hitting us here," which would be absurdist, but pretty typical for us, I think. Or it's going to be, if cooler heads prevail, it's going to be, look, we literally had today testimony that Trump knew they weren't planning to make a bomb. They weren't trying to make a bomb. We had a deal that was brokered the day before that was better even than Obama's deal. And that, holy shit, probably because Trump wasn't allowed to negotiate the deal. It was we had our own, the U.S. had negotiators we sent. Trump wasn't allowed to do it. The question isn't how Trump responds. I know how Trump's going to respond. He's going to respond with scorched earth. But the question is, do Republicans, especially in the House and Senate, say we shouldn't have gone in the first place? We told you guys not to go in. We hesitatingly, and the rest of the world is going to take one look at this and say, see, we told you so. I mean, they're already telling us that. I mean, Trump thought this was going to be over in 40. He literally thought it was going to be a decapitation strike. It was going to go as quickly as Venezuela. He knew it would take a little longer than Venezuela, but Venezuela was over in about 3 hours. He thought this would take 2 days tops, wipe out all, and admittedly, at least from where I'm standing, the start of the operation was brilliantly executed. I mean, they killed just about the entire senior leadership in the first hour. I don't think an attack like that's ever been done successfully. Having said that, they were prepared for an attack to be that successful. They're not playing any more than we are, and oh dear. Yeah, 3 days, just like Russia. The comparisons between Putin and Russia, Putin and Trump, every day, there's more. They look more and more alike to me, and that makes me sad because I do love my country and it can do better and it should be doing better. There's no excuse. There's no excuse except laziness and becoming disconnected from the rest of the world and deciding that somehow our needs are more important than everybody else's. And that's unfortunate because the Kennedy speech, we all breathe the same air and we're all mortal. We all got to live on this planet together. So we really
have a interesting question. I'm going to put you on the spot for it.
All right. It's not like I haven't put you on the spot 6 times tonight already.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a bit of an unfair.
Okay.
But have you given any thought to my position that the government has become too large, too bloated, too bureaucratic, and has concentrated far too much power, especially in the executive? Have you come any further towards my position on that after watching what this administration has done?
Oh, Jesus, yes. Yes. How far, I don't know yet. I need to take a breather and see us recover before I can reach it too much. But to get to your position a bit, and I'm going to explain your position as best I understand it, for brevity's sake, and that's scary. If I'm actually briefer than you, that's scary. So you and I have talked repeatedly about big government versus small government. But first of all, when we have those conversations, usually by government, you tend to mean exclusively federal. And I just think of government as government. So when you say big government, you don't actually object to the size of a state's government so long as that state chose to, for whatever reasons, do it at that level. But that a federal government being too big can cause a huge amount of problems. Most of the problems that you have talked to me about, and for those of you who are reasonably new, Zandering is sort of the conservative of the show. I'm the liberal. And we've been doing this for a while. So the objections that we've been doing this before the U.S. started its rapid descent into hell. Your objections were, and you've said many times, for example, that you did not like the government welfare programs, but the programs that you talk about are at the federal government level. You actually believe very much that states should have their own safety nets, but they should do it themselves, not have the federal government do it, because each state has its own different needs, and because the governor of that state is going to be more beholden to. I can actually meet and have a meeting with my governor and my state reps if I want to. I cannot meet with the president of the United States. I cannot meet with most. So you've had this, and I'm sitting here going like, wow, things are just so much better if you just have one big government doing it. And you're like, no. And your argument has been that corruption is much harder to stop. And there are many incentives to do it, more incentives in the larger system. Watching this one break apart, I've found your arguments much more sympathetic. I think we've agreed that there are some things that haven't been accounted for by the states that really do need to be done at the federal level. One of them was like a COVID response. But I've definitely been considering it. I just haven't had the mental capacity to sit down and reimagine, because you had pointed something else out, which I think is very important. I think there's a fundamental flaw in the Constitution. I think not going with a parliamentary system may end up being what kills us. And I think the reason is because our system of winner take all on the executive branch will always resolve to a two-party system. When you get to a two-party system, it's not stable. You have to have a minimum of three parties. You cannot do that in a winner take all. Congress isn't winner take all. The judicial isn't even elected. But because the executive is, we've gone from many parties to two, and if we replay this scenario, we always would end up coming down to two, and that's inherently unstable. And it emphasizes and rewards brinksmanship type of maneuvering, and that's really bad. So, the more conservative idea of handing power back to the states in the way that it was originally done. And that it was. People say, I'm from Kentucky. I'm not from the United States. I'm from Kentucky. And there are still people who do that, but that was much more prominent back then. You'd still end up here. So I don't know what the answer is, but your objections, and it gets back to, you've always said the reason I want to have a gun is in case of an authoritarian government. And I've always laughed at you for this. And I still think rightfully so. I'll just have to find something else to laugh at you for, because I'm sitting here going like, oh, the United States will never turn authoritarian. And then Trump is elected. And you see liberals more interested in guns than they've ever been. Why? And it's starting with the furthest on the left, but it's working its way in. So, and it's people who are especially vulnerable, trans people, just anybody who's on the furthest end of the left. but it's working its way in because every minority is starting to say it's going to become acceptable to hunt us and kill us. And the reason that's going to become acceptable is because Trump is already doing so. Yeah, your argument about a corrupt government has a lot more. Yeah, that was well, actually. Let me see if I can play that. Anyways, that's a very long answer. Does that sort of answer your question?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, for brevity's sake, I mean, here we are 15 minutes later.
Yeah. I would like to play this clip. We played it before. We'll play it again, and then we'll end the show. We've already done my final rundown. So this is up. This is a clip that's going to get you thinking. It's uncomfortable, but Piaget said all salient learning is painful. Once again, just because now I always have to check the audio, and let's make sure that you guys don't get an echo on this, because this is worth not echoing. And let's play it. And by the way, what this man's about to say is all factually completely accurate.
Hey, hi, hello, and welcome back to class. I'm the history resident. I have a master's degree in Holocaust and Genocide Studies. Let us be perfectly clear on something. The United States is not becoming just like Nazi Germany. Nazi Germany became just like the United States. They studied our Jim Crow laws and used them as a framework for the Nuremberg laws. And they studied our eugenics laws and used them as a framework for the T4 program. The United States is not suddenly descending into a fascist state. It's just becoming visibly fascist in a way that the people who had previously been privileged enough to ignore it can now no longer do so. And as always, have a day.
I will say, in argument for somebody said a small government would be easier for a Trump regime to take over. Yes, it would. But if you take a look at the states that are standing up to Trump, the idea would be that the individual states would have an easier time not getting pushed around and not having, if Trump didn't have the authority to, which he's not supposed to have anyway, to deploy. But as he becomes more fascist, states that don't, it's a tough problem. I mean, you end up with the problem on the other side too, which is if the federal government didn't have the authority to enforce Brown versus Board of Education, where would we be? But I hate it. I hate it when his andering makes me think. Is all I'm really trying to say, and I'm still going to laugh at him. So
I mean, if it was easy, everybody make their own country.
That's true. That's true. Oh well,
yeah, beware the person who comes to you with simple solutions, because this shit ain't simple.
Yep.
It's as a matter of fact, it's far more complicated than even the people who are warning you it's complicated are telling you.
There's infinite levels of regress on the
no
complications. Yeah.
Yes. It is not easy, because it's like, okay, you can think of a solution to solve a problem. And then you're like, yeah, but that solution will probably, even if I grant, will probably solve that problem. Here's 30 other problems that would snowball into. It's like, how are you going to fix these things? It is not easy at all.
Yep.
Or simple.
All right, so that's where we stand, folks. For those of you just joining us, you can see the rundown at the beginning. Not much has changed since we started airing. There's been multiple drones over multiple Air Force bases, over multiple military bases. The White House is rather concerned about this. They're not U.S. drones. They don't appear to be civilian. If they are civilian, they're not finding the owners, and the civilian ones don't have the kind of range to let you do that. So it looks like, I think the working theory is these are drones made by Iranians in the United States that have been surveilling military bases, possibly looking for targets. The one tonight was the Washington Army base of Fort McNair, which houses Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. There was multiple drones over that base tonight. We don't know anything other than that. The Washington Post article about it has been put on our Discord. You can find it there. Tomorrow afternoon, 4 p.m. Eastern, I will be on the Greg Terry Experience with the eponymous Greg Terry, and then tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern, we will have Downtime with Commander McMillan, who I'm sure will have a lot to say on this matter. Thank you very much all for your support and super chats, comments. Thank you, 𝐒𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿, for coming on such short notice, and we'll see. Yeah, this. I think this is serious stuff. Again, I a number of shows where I've said this is serious, and I wake up and it's like, did we do a show? Did they really? And did the Wagner Group really basically get halfway to Moscow yesterday? Nobody's got it in the papers. All right. Have a good one, all. Thank you, 𝐒𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿. Talk to you tomorrow. Good night.